bystanders? Welcome to another episode of An Angel and Her Unicorn comic book reviews. I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me today and always is...
Just James.
Just like James Bond. And this joke will never get old. Well, eventually it might, but not for a little bit for me.
And then I'll be replaced with another James. A younger
version. We will be spoiling the books for the week. So if you have not read your books, you may want to take a moment and do that. Read those up and then come back and see what we have to say. Or you're more than welcome to come with us down the journey of the rabbit hole and see all the horrible things that we're going to say about things and the good things we're going to say about things. And decide if you want to read it in the first place. If you can, like, share, and subscribe, because we would love to start a conversation. The more people we have, the more we get out there, the more I would love to be able to see what people's opinions are.
We want the money. We want that smooth YouTube money, baby.
I think I gave up on that a long time ago. I don't think
we just need
I don't think I'm money worthy.
If we get to 1 million subscribers, we only need 999,970
more.
We're
so close.
Oh, we're so close, people.
So close. We were up to 31, close. And now we're down to 30. So somebody left.
Dang it. Come on, guys. Get it together.
So, if you can, like, share, and subscribe, we would greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll keep going anyways, because I have nothing else to do with my life on a Sunday. So, I think you started first last week.
Yes.
So, I'm going to start first, and I'm going to do Trust Fall. Trust Fall by Aftershock.
I was going to read that. I forgot to look it up.
I'll see if my opinion changes your mind. So Trust Fall, it's from Aftershock Comics. It's number 1. The creators are is written by Christopher Sebla, and art is Chris Visions. So a lot of Chris's. I love the cover. The cover of this is really cool. Like, it looks really neat.
You're scaring me. I love the cover.
I do, and I like the art. The art's kind of interesting. Like, they did some interesting things. But it is a little confusing. I'm not quite sure what the story is about, per se. Like, there are things that I get, but it is not... I don't know. Maybe I didn't read it well enough. But it starts off with somebody breaking into this place... Or this guard, he's sitting there, he's watching his TV, and all of a sudden he hears a noise, so he goes, and he finds this little girl, and she calls, and she says, "Mom, I'm in," I think she says China or somewhere. Where'd she end up being at? She ended up being in some far-off place, and so it was like she just appeared out of nowhere. So then it cuts to, I assume, the same girl, but years later. She's kind of an adult, and she's breaking into this exhibit, and she's like a smooth criminal, but I think I can't tell if she disintegrates them or teleports them, but she gets rid of the guards. Like she has her little hand gun. She's like, like literally a hand as her gun, and she's just zapping people. And then she runs outside, and there's a car waiting, and they have a chase scene. They get away, and they're kind of talking. The dialogue's a little weird again, and then she comes back, and she has this like rich family. But the family, they keep calling themselves brothers and sisters and mom and dad, but none of them look alike. So I don't know if it's like a mafia family where like they like are all different people and they've come together as a family, or if it's just the art is made to look like a little bit different. I'm not for sure. Then they kind of talk about some stuff that they have to do, and I don't know, words and things, and I get really confused. And then she kind of wants to leave, so she leaves and is out in the real world when she shouldn't be, and so they kind of bring her back to the house, and they're going to bring her on her first job, and they bring her, and hilarity ensues, and she ends up getting tranquilized. And she gets ready to pass out, but then somebody grabs her and tries to help her escape. So, I really wanted this book to be cool. I really wanted it to be... I love the art. The art was so interesting. It reminded me of Damian Scott with Batgirl when he did like those really dynamic poses and like like elongated arms and all this kind of stuff, and it was just really really neat and interesting and intricate. And there's another one that he did the covers for Deadpool for a while. He did Body Bags, Pearson maybe. Anyways, like the art is really cool. Like I really liked it. It's very kind of Afro-American, very bright colors. Interesting like angles and elongated arms and limbs, and so I really like it. It's really dynamic, a little cartoony, but I really still like everybody kind of has like everybody kind of has their own look, and so I really liked it. But the writing was just, for me, it was just not there. Like I didn't understand it. It didn't flow very well. The words they chose to use were really jumbled and odd, so I feel like the writing was really kind of hindered the story a little bit more, and sometimes the art hindered itself a little bit too, because they tried like these weird panels, like instead of doing panels, like they did like these elongated panels, so they're longer sides, and so they're kind of more vertical reading instead of like left to right kind of reading. But it kind of sometimes it kind of makes it a little more dynamic, and sometimes it kind of hurts itself because I wasn't quite sure where the heck I'm going in the page. So overall, my expectations were probably a little higher than what they actually paid off. So I really wanted it to be amazing, and it was just meh. So I'm curious to see what you have to say when you get done reading it. See if you
because we discussed it. I'd seen it in the write-up of books coming out this week, and the write-up made it sound interesting.
Yeah, no, I was with you. I was the same way.
I think the write-up mentioned that she teleports people. Because she couldn't teleport herself, so the family always had to get her out of wherever she was when she was stealing things. So
yeah, and they have like a weird family dynamic. There's two brothers and sisters that are kind of fighting, and then she has like a sister that she kind of likes, and it's just the whole. I don't know. Like I said, like I feel like the writing. I wanted the writing to be a little bit more clear, but I don't know. Like it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. So I say 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. I might try to do the second book and see what happens. But I don't know. It depends on if I come across it or not. When it comes out. So I'm curious to see what people think about this book, though. If it was something that everybody really liked, or it definitely has a flavor to it. Like there's definitely, there's something to it that's kind of interesting, but then you kind of get into it and you're just like, boo. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it'll be really amazing further along, and I'll be the bad guy because I'm like, eh. Okay. Oh, I would say probably 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. So give it a shot if it's your thing. Maybe you can explain it to me a little bit better than I can explain to myself, which is a total possibility. Because sometimes I just breeze through things, or I don't connect these two dots. That's really bad about like Doomsday Clock and Watchmen. Like there was so much metaphor and symbolism and all that stuff that I was like, no, whoop. And I feel like there's people out there that have lots more involvement, lots more intelligence, a lot more time that they put into these things, and they are able to like.
Well, and a lot of metaphor boils down to
how you perceive it.
Well, and personal experience.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the same personal experiences that the writer does, what's an obvious metaphor for them, you're like, what?
Yes, I think that's where, yeah. So, who knows?
It's an allegory for the Vietnam War. Well, okay, I was...
Yeah, like, it was a cinnamon roll. I don't understand. Like, yeah.
I wasn't alive for most of this.
Yeah, yes, I get confused sometimes, so. But it is true. I think a lot of times they will, use things that you're like, I don't know, because of how they feel. So, all right, I'll let you go.
All right, first book I'm going to be reviewing is Immortal Hulk, number 19. It's by Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, Jose, and Paul Mounts. Immortal Hulk is kind of revitalized Hulk. It's a lot of people say it's one of Marvel's best books right now. I've enjoyed it.
I don't know. Major X is pretty awesome.
I liked it back when he was Corporal X.
When he was Private X.
No.
That sounds like a job.
So the it's kind of mixing the traditional Hulk with almost like a horror genre, saying that the Hulk can't die and that the Gamma accident opened up a door to some kind of mystical plane where all these things lived, and they're also they're drawing from all the previous Hulk stories, the various personalities of the Hulk. There was
the Grey Hulk,
a Devil Hulk, and then they in the last one they were dealing with his Joe Fixit personality, and so this one it starts out. The government has made a gamma creature out of the bodies of Rick Jones and Neil Blonsky, the Abomination, and they turned him loose to fight the Hulk, and he's got some kind of acid that eats away at the Hulk, and the Hulk can't regenerate from. And they're showing the general that's out to get the Hulk, as they have done many times, that he's become tunnel vision on stopping the Hulk, and doesn't care about collateral damage or anything. One of the witnesses to this comes out, and there's some soldiers setting up a perimeter around town, and she comes out and is yelling at them for help, and they're like, "We know, ma'am, it's all good," and then he shoots her in the head.
Kicks her in the head.
Yeah, we're handling it. So, and then they've also introduced Betty Ross, who was Red She-Hulk, and then previously she'd been turned into the Harpy. Well, now she's mutated into the Red Harpy, and so she eats all the soldiers.
All the bad soldiers?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a reporter who's with her, and the reporter's like, "You could have just taken their guns away," and the Red Harpy's like, "That's that they weren't good people. This is what I do." So
rip their heads off with my claws.
Yep. And there's some flashback stuff showing different aspects of her personality and how she got where she is. Then she comes out on the excuse me, on the ends of the Hulk Gamma creature fight, and the thing has taken all of the Hulk's limbs and gouged his eyes out, and Hulk is it's now he's reverted to the childlike Hulk, and he's like, "Oh, that's Betty. Betty, save Hulk!" And she digs into his chest and pulls his heart out and eats it. She says, "This is who I am now." So they've gone to kind of a dark place, but
wow, that's a little intense.
Yeah. But the whole thing of this is you can't kill the Hulk, so he'll get better.
Me a flesh wound.
Yep.
Come back here, I shall bite your legs off.
Yep.
Maybe that's why she did it, because she knew he has, in order for him to get better,
he had to die to, or she could just be hungry.
That sounds horrible. I mean, get a snack. Like, there ain't no crackers around.
She's gonna be in the next Snickers commercial.
She's Betty White.
You're not you when you
That was Snickers.
That was Snickers.
So overall,
I enjoyed it.
Art.
It was good art. It the whole series has been an interesting take on the Hulk. I'd give it 4 horns.
Nice. So while James is going into bronchitis, I'm gonna go with my next one, and it's BanjaX. It's by Action Lab Comics. Let's see. The creators are. It's written by Raylan Grant, and art is Fabio Alves. So this is kind of a interesting take on superheroes for this world. They have. He starts off with he's talking about this drug where it is like the most addictive drug, but it's zapping. It's where they, the mutant or the powerful person, whoever it is, zaps their powers by touch into the person's brain, and it kind of like gets them high. But the more it's like it's the most addictive thing in the world. If you like 75% of people who try it become fully dependent. Then they're dead within a year, and then like 1 in 4 dies in like 4 years. So it's really super addictive. So it starts off with this guy. He's getting ready to. He's on the top of the building, and it looks like he's gonna. He says it needs to be. He needs to have a cure. So I think he's gonna try to obviously stop all this. But he's kind of like a Deathstroke looking character. He's got like an orangish mask with his X across the mouth, and like this body armor. And let me see if I can brighten it up. Hang on. So, yeah, it's like this body armor, Deathstroke kind of character. But then it kind of flashes back, and he talks about how all of a sudden he was reliving his life. So it starts talking about his family. His parents were abusive. His dad was abusive, and it talks about him hiding from his dad from the cigarette burns. And then he finds his mom who killed herself, and she left him a note that he should fight back. Be strong, fight. So he stays with his dad, and his dad's beating him, so he fights back, and he just ends up being kind of stronger than what he should be. So he leaves, and he's all of a sudden he comes across this girl that's getting raped, and he helps her, but come to find out she was just trying to get money for drugs. And so, but he beat these bad guys up, and he's the super strong person. And that's when he kind of becomes this superhero. So he becomes a superhero, does good, becomes popular, and then he ends up the reason he can be popular is because there's another supervillain that came in and kind of took over the city, and so he was the only one that was powerful enough or strong enough to be able to fight him. So he fights him and stops him. Everybody loves him, and he becomes a hero. And then he ends up getting this getting into the lifestyle of a kind of superhero with like drugs and women. He ends up getting this one woman pregnant, and they have he kind of falls into the not the abusive father, but he kind of has like that hard time being a father because of he doesn't really know how because his father was doing this, so he's kind of like perpetuating this stereotype. And eventually his wife leaves him. His wife takes the daughter and leaves him. She gets full custody. So he just kind of goes off the rails. He starts sleeping with all these women, just mowing down criminals, started getting into drugs. And he ends up, but then he finds this kind of, helps this guy who wants to be a superhero. And so he kind of helps him kind of come out of his own stuff. And so he gets a sidekick, and him and this guy become friends, and they fight crime, and they just become really, really close. And he kind of helps him out of the dark place. And then there's a guy that is raping all these women and serial rapist. So he's raping all these women that are redheads. So, and it's just starting to pile up, and they're on number 37, victim number 37, and they can't find him, they can't stop him, and the city's calling him out. You need to, why can't you stop this person? And he's trying, but he can't find them. Eventually, he does find them, and when he does, he almost kills them. But they videotape it, and he's almost getting ready to kill this guy because one of the victims was his ex-wife, and so he really had a hard time with it. So he's getting ready to kill him. But the sidekick stops him, and so they kind of break up, and he gets on trial. So they take him to court. He kind of becomes a pariah, but then the sidekick kind of becomes the new spokesperson for the superheroes. He becomes, he's like the good kid. He's all this stuff, and the other guy becomes just degenerate. Like he no longer has any money. He's into drugs. He ends up becoming part of the Zap character, the addictive drugs. Then they finally get him clean. His sidekick finds him, gets him clean. He goes to the doctor, and come to find out his healing factor that he's had is actually increasing and getting. It's doing its job too well to where it's helping his cancer. He has cancer that is starting to grow faster and faster and faster. So he kind of has this thing where he's like, okay, well, I don't have a choice now. I have to kind of save everybody because I'm dying anyways. I don't have that much longer to live. So he kind of goes on this rampage and burns this drug den and says that he's kind of back. He's back. And that's the end of the book. It was rather intense, a little bit more darker superhero. The only thing, it wasn't that it was bad. It was just okay for me. But I think the reason it was okay is because it was almost like they threw everything out there. They threw all the stuff plus the kitchen sink, but they did it all in one issue. Is this issue 1? Here's all the reasons why he's why he's been through all this stuff. Here's all the stuff, and it's just bam. And that was kind of a lot to take in for first issue. I always talk about some of in my old videos about first issues. First issues are a lot of work to get a first issue right. This was okay.
You gotta give enough.
Right.
But you can't give too much.
Right, and I just feel like I've got all the story now. Why do I even care anymore? I think actually if they would have took all these things and made them into separate issues, maybe a 12-issue miniseries, I think that would have been way better because they could have focused on some of the stuff and they could have focused on maybe the decline of him and then the building up. So I'm not quite sure. It's almost like they did everything in one book. So I'm not for sure. I assume these next few books are going to be him just kind of going on this tirade about trying to stop everything he can. But I don't know. This book does not make me want to read more. It was okay. The art was okay. It was a little dark. The material was dark. The art was dark. But still, everybody, all the characters look good. They did, I don't know. It just wasn't. It didn't get me excited about to read the other issues, to see what's going to happen because I feel like they've already shown everything that's happened to him. So, yeah, I'd say probably 2 out of 5 unicorn horns for me. But I can see where people would actually really enjoy this book and praise it to be more of a little bit more than just a superhero book. But I don't know, I feel like I said, it's just a lot at once. So 2 out of 5 unicorn horns for me, but hopefully somebody else will enjoy it. Alright.
Okay. So my next book is Prodigy by Mark Millar and Raphael Albuquerque.
Is this the first issue?
This is the 6th issue.
Okay.
I saw it had come out and I hadn't been reading it, so I just read all 6 all together. So, it's what's the main guy's name? Edison something. But he's the smartest person in the world going away. and he's become super rich. He's kind of he's kind of Steve Jobs and to the power of 10, and throw in a little Stephen Hawking and a little Elon Musk, and so not only is he super smart, but he can like section off his subconscious mind and have different parts working on a problem all at the same time. So he's like, I can give my full consciousness to multiple problems all at once. So
the ultimate multitasker.
Yeah. And his biggest problem is he's bored all the time. He has a Twitter feed or something, and he just has kids put together dares for him to do, like jump over the Grand Canyon on a motorcycle that's on fire with no parachute, and he's like, right after lunch, and he does it, and so he's always looking for the next thing to keep his mind occupied. And one of the things his dad was pissed at him and throws $1 at him and says, this is it. This is your entire inheritance. And the kid snaps back at him, I'll have turned it into $1 billion by the end of the week. So, the backstory is that there's a alternate dimension, a darker Earth that wants to. They have used up their Earth and they want to invade our Earth and take over. And they have sent some. They sent some people through way back, and they formed a cabal, if you would, and the various generations of that have been setting up this empire to take over. So he had a gal from the UN that he was teamed up with fighting these guys. Well, she just got revealed to be working for the cabal.
Of course.
And
never trust the blondes.
Yep. And they've tricked him into building the device that will let these people come across safely. And so they radio back home to the evil dimension and tell the Emperor that, it's ready, send the troops through. And but then, being the smartest guy in the world, he says, can I have one last request? And she says, would you mind standing exactly where you are for the next 15 seconds? And the first ship comes through right on top of the bad guys. And of course he had figured out that she was not on his side. And and he'd sent all the bad guys through straight into the sun. Oh, and while he was at it, there was a asteroid that was about to hit Earth that he had tasked himself with diverting, and he sent that through the bridge to the other universe and smashed their Earth and destroyed it. So, yeah. It was a fun read, but the trouble with making a super smart protagonist is nothing's hard for him. You knew he was gonna see through that this gal was...
He was gonna have some solution.
So, and you kind of write yourself into a corner, because if you...
find something that's harder for him, it's like, well, why can't he figure this
why
out?
Can't he then he's not as smart as you wrote him, and if he does figure it out, well, then it was too easy anyway.
That's kind of sometimes the issues with, like, Sherlock, like the new Sherlock, like they
make him so smart that he can't get out of his own way.
And then, like, the Moriarty, they bring in, like, these characters that are just, like, they're supposed to be smarter than him, or they're supposed to, like, challenge him, but then they end up, like, he gets over him anyways.
Spoiler for the last season of Sherlock, his sister that could, sway someone over to her side just by talking with them for 15 minutes. And I'm like, no, there's no argument that you could give in 15 minutes that would cause me to become your thrall.
Well,
so,
I don't know. I do a lot for chocolate.
That's a lot of chocolate.
I don't really even need a lot. It's just...
Okay.
I was like, yesterday,
possibly could be our last episode.
I was like, so if anybody's looking for me to be in your thrall, please send chocolate.
Okay. So, so then, he saved the world, and the world's all grateful, and someone had challenged him to jump a car between two buildings, and he's like, well, let's kick it up, and let's put 3 helicopters in the way, and I'll jump over them, and, and his producer's like, of course the kid just raised the stakes. He said it's boring if you just land the car on the building opposite now. He said he wants you jumping these helicopters, dodging some missiles, and landing the car in the Rummelsburg Lake. Is that even possible, sir? And the guy gets in the car and revs it up. And he's like, I'll figure something out. He likes figuring things out on the fly. So
Spaceman, that looks kind of good.
It was enjoyable. It was good art. It just, he was too smart.
Yeah. Wasn't a challenge for anything. Yeah.
But he was a fun. He also came. He was trying not to be arrogant, and that came across as arrogant. So
is it a mini-series, or is it?
I think it's a mini-series. It felt like they wrapped everything up, but they left the character open to do more.
Yeah, if they wanted to do something else.
I don't know if Millar has sold the movie and TV rights to Netflix, so any of the stuff he writes is possibility for becoming
a Netflix show. So I could see that.
He could be like a super smart James Bond. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I burned through 6 issues, and
so it's easy reading
in a couple days.
Yeah,
and then I kept wanting to read more, so that's a good plus. I give it 3.5 horns.
Yeah, right on. So I think I'm going to do for my last book is Calamity Kate. It's the final issue 4. And so this one is, I think I've reviewed this a couple times, maybe first 2 issues or so. So this is the final issue. It is writer Magdalena Visaggio, and Corin Howell is the artist. So with this book, she's a monster hunter, and she's set about trying to stop all the main monsters. There's so many main monsters, and she's out trying to destroy those main monsters so she could stop all the other ones. Because the other character in the book, Javelin, is kind of her rival, and her rival has taken everything from her. She's taken away her lover and all this other stuff in her life, and so she's wanting to stop these monsters to kind of show her up. Well, in this book, she kind of says goodbye to her friend that she's been living with, and the little kid is like, "You don't get to leave. If you want to leave, you have to kill me." And she's like, "I gotta go. I've made a lot of mistakes. It's kind of like a final goodbye of where she's leaving, heading back. She gives the little girl her jacket and tells her that there's something in the pocket that she left for her. And she's driving to the airport. And while she's driving to the airport, this one final monster shows up. She's jumping on cars. She's kind of this introspective moment about how she's messed up her life and all this stuff. And she's getting ready to stop the monster and kill it. And Javelin shows up. And she like kills the monster. And so she's super mad because she's like, I could, now you're in my way. And then so they start to fight, and she ends up. Javelin still beats her, and gets one over on her, and then she ends up finally getting to the airport, and she just takes off her gloves and just kind of like breaks down, and that's the end of the book, or that's the end of this chapter. Then it has a little epilogue, and it's the little girl that she's been living with, the little girl and the mother. And the mother's like, I don't want you to do this. It's dangerous. She goes, Mom, this is what I, love to do. I want to hunt these monsters. And she goes, and she has the Calamity Kate's jacket on, and she lifts the garage door, and it's Calamity Kate's old car, and she goes, I'm gonna name it Calamity, and that's the end of the book. So. Really disappointed. Because the first few issues were really interesting. Like, the art's fun. The art is really, like, they have some really neat kind of panels. I really like the premise of her trying to, like, kind of get back her life and outdo this person, which, like, they kind of... But, this is it. Like, this was the end, and they just... she got nowhere, and they didn't even... nothing. Like, it's like... So it's kind of a downer, Debbie Downer at the end, because she didn't even get what she was trying to get, and so I feel so sad. Like, I was like, no, this is such a good book, and I honestly I feel like this book could have gone on for a lot longer than it did. 4 issues was really quick, especially when you have like I think it was like 7 main monsters, and she only they just kind of breeze past that part where she fights all them. And she's just kind of done, so they could have done way more issues with this, and kind of, it's not the ending per se that I didn't mind. I kind of like that she didn't get what she wanted. I kind of like that she was kind of failing at it, and, she kind of, she had this moment, but I feel like it was really quick to get there. It's like 4 issues, and then she was just like, she'd already been, like, disappointed, and I was like, I wish she would have. I don't know, like, there could have been more, and I think that's what kind of made me blah about the whole thing, because I wanted it to be, I don't know, I really liked the first 3 issues, and I was really excited for this, and I wasn't quite sure how they were going to end it, and so now that it's ended, it's just like, it kind of feels lackluster and kind of just rushed. So, I did like the epilogue, though, because I liked the little girl. She'd been trying the whole, 3 issues, she'd been trying to, fight, train and fight monsters, so I did like that she became a monster hunter, and that was kind of cool, but it's still, I don't know, I was just really left, out in nowheresville, but the art still was really good, the story, the dialogue wasn't bad, it was pretty solid, so I just feel like the ending was really rushed, but I give it probably I'd say this one, just because of the ending, the 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. I still like it's very unresolved. There's a lot of stuff that could have been put into this book, and I feel like it could have had more of the stuff that made it a little bit better, but all in all, it was okay. So, middle of the road. Alright, last book.
Okay, my last book is Sonada by Image.
I thought you were going to do Silver Surfer.
I'll mention that in the books I also read, but
I skipped Silver Surfer just because I knew you were going to.
Oh.
No, it's fine. I was just messing with you.
It's by David Hine and David Haberlin, and then the art's by David Haberlin. It's first issue. I love this book.
Oh.
It's... I don't know, it's kind of different. It's dropping you into this brand new world. It's like set in another solar system. The main world, I guess, is about used up, and they said every 5 years this second planet gets close enough that they can take a ship over and drop people off. And but it's a one-way trip. You can't leave once you get there. So you meet the main character whose name is Sonada, and she rides a flying creature, kind of a giant, almost like a pterodactyl type something or other. And they've, she's friends with it. It's not just a beast. And her dad's one of the leaders of the colony. She's gonna go fly out to meet a ship that's dropped in, and it's during a storm, and her dad is tells her he doesn't want her flying during the storm, but she's worried about these people and not worried about the storm, so they fly out to meet the ship, and it gets hit by lightning and goes down in a bad part of the planet. So she has to protect him from some of the local wildlife, and she's showing off her skills fighting off these they call them scabus.
I like that art.
Gimcats. Yeah, the art is very poignant.
Woo!
So then in the background there's what they call a sleeping giant, and they're not entirely, she says it's a legend that Perdita is the home of the gods. No one is sure if the sleeping giants are those gods. Mostly we just try not to disturb them. And then the sleeping giant walks off and it has scared off the monsters. So I'm assuming that's some foreshadowing that this is going to come up later. So she takes the new settlers back to their settlement, and the new settlers note that everything looks kind of parched and dry, and then they mention that the main river that feeds their thing is dropped down to a trickle, and so she goes to meet with the leaders of the group, and then there's some aliens that kind of tribal beastie looking aliens that are
part of the council.
Yeah.
Parlaying.
Yep. And so it comes out that this group is called the Ron, and then there's another planet has sent settlers there, and that they have dammed off the river, and to keep all the water for themselves. So this group gets together and says, well, we're going to send a negotiation council over to, there's enough water for everybody. If they just, lower the dam a little, and let some of the water out. And so they discuss it.
Not in Tulsa. In Tulsa, we're good. We got all the water you need.
Until we don't.
Give it a couple more weeks.
Yeah. So, this Sonada's father he's wanting to go a more militaristic action.
Just take over the dam?
Well, he says every encounter with these Tayans has not gone well, and that they're not going to respond to diplomacy. So the supreme leader of the group, who's like a matriarch, she says, "Well, we'll send a peace envoy first," and Sonada gets sent with a couple other people and one of the big fluffy aliens. As they're flying in, they notice that the bad guys, we assume they're bad guys, have dammed off the entire river. And so these guys are saying, we don't have the technology to do that. If they've got the technology to do that, we need to tread carefully because they're obviously more technologically advanced than us. So they land, and the bad guys just look sinister. They've got, and they're kind of jerks, and
of course they are because they're in power.
Yeah, they. And they're talking down to him that you brought the beasts with you. We just hunt them for food, and you treat them like equals. You look down their nose at them. So they tell these guys that that you don't have the right to all the water, and
share. We're going home.
Yeah, and the bad guy, the Sonada's father says, "There's land for all of us, food and water for all of us. There's no reason for us to have a problem." Another guy's like, "Yeah, there is enough land. Why don't you move south where there's more land and leave us and our water alone?" And so they fly off, having been dismissed. Well, as they fly off, the Tayans are like, we need to be careful. Their technology is much superior to us. So both sides think the other one's technology is way above them, and I guess the Rands outnumber these guys. So so back at the council, they're like, this isn't going to work. They're not going to back down. Their suggestion was that we move. So the council comes up with a plan. They're gonna blow up the dam. And the council's like, "Well, won't that be seen as an act of war?" And they said, "Well, they're already treating us like this was an act of war. We're not going to try not to kill any of their people in this. This is the best chance we have." So they fly in, plant some explosives, blow up the dam, and they screw up, and they were gonna try to just let a trickle of water out, and they let all the water out. So then it's heading down toward their village, and
holy crap, this is a lot.
Yeah, as the flood's coming in, the girl Sonada and one of the big fluffy aliens, he saves her from the water, and they jump into a hole and then find like an ancient civilization, and that there wasn't supposed to be any
old
civilization on this planet, so she's got to try to figure out what's going on there. So I enjoyed the heck out of this. The art is gorgeous. The story gives you enough to know what's going on, but
not every single detail.
There's so much more I want to know. I highly recommend this. I'd give it a full 5 unicorn.
Wow, that's awesome.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It just sort of got an epic fantasy feel to it. The art's almost, heavy metal-esque, and it's... I hope they can keep...
the momentum.
Yeah.
So, did you read anything else? Did you...
So, I read...
Go through our pull list really quick.
Yep. Silver Surfer Black. I hadn't read any of the prelude stuff leading up to this to see... I guess that Thanos... Excuse me.
So, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos was killed earlier, but in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Black Order is trying to bring him back, and the Guardians of the Galaxy are trying to stop him, because apparently in his last will and testament said that he has downloaded his essence into somebody. So, they all think it's Gamora. So, the dark kind of Guardians of the Galaxy, they are trying to kill Gamora, and then the regular Guardians of the Galaxy are trying to save Gamora. But before they got to that point, the Black Order came to steal Thanos' body, because he doesn't have a head, but they just came to steal his body.
And there was something about his last will and testament.
Right, which was the fact that he left his essence in somebody. And but before they left, this black hole happened, and basically threw all the heroes in a black hole. All the galaxy or galactic heroes, what is this? Gladiator, Beta Ray Bill, Moondragon, all of them flew into this thing. Silver Surfer, and but it kind of starts there. So it starts with them being in this vortex and how he kind of helped everybody to save them and get them out. And then while he's in this vortex,
so he gets everybody out, and then
kind of finds a new world.
Yeah, finds a new world in the middle of the black hole, and then there's a door that he wants through, and the door is guarded by 3 guardians, and he's weakened, but he's still super strong.
Yeah,
that always bothers. Yeah, he's on his last dying breath, but it's the Silver Surfer's last dying breath, which is like Superman +7, and I don't know.
But then he uses
ridiculous.
He uses his last bit of power, kind of, sort of, to bring light to the black hole or to the black world, and he does, and it changes everything.
And he finds out the Guardians were 3 goddesses that had been taken over by someone, and in bringing the darkness, his hand is burnt or something, and then he opens up the door, and it's Null, the god of the symbiotes.
Yeah.
So I didn't care for it at all.
It was okay.
The art was not good.
I thought the art was very interesting. It was very dynamic. It was very elongated, but in almost like a rushed, scribbly way. Yeah. Everything looked very pulled and bubbly and kind of rounded. It was kind of odd. Like I said, I definitely think it was a good choice for the cosmic character or for the cosmic kind of world, but it definitely was it definitely is an artistic.
I didn't care for
rendition.
So
I totally understand that. I when I read the book, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but in my mind, I'm like, everybody's gonna hate this because it is a very
I read
odd.
The Ride, which is the Ride Burning Desire. It's a continuation of an old Image story. It's by Wagner, Hilliard, Hughes, Martin, and Dukeshire. The Hughes part was gorgeous art. The story made no sense to me. They all have to. They're all supposed to revolve around this car, and I was confused, but my eyes were happy from the art. So, go art.
How much you rate Silver Surfer?
Give it like barely a 2 horns.
I'd say 2 out of 5 for me. What about Ride? What would you rate it?
2.5. And then I also read the latest of the Star Trek Q conflict.
Yeah.
Continuing it's the 4 shows people. This time they send them to grab a Borg queen, and they all figure out different ways to get around the Borg, and I think Picard grabbed her, and then there's some background stuff. The Corbin Burnson's Q, and there was a girl that was a Q, a kid Q, and they make an appearance, and they're all, there's machinations behind the scenes, and it's, I don't know, we'll see. And then I read the new Darth Vader Dark Visions, which are kind of one-off
they're kind of the funnier
stories.
Ones too.
This one wasn't very memorable. The one with the girl that was obsessed with him was just phenomenal.
And the guy that I was afraid that he was always going to be like, gonna let him down.
This one was they were looking for some information, and the guy that ends up with it gets poisoned by this plant that gives you, it's like psychotropic.
Yeah.
And so he's running from Darth Vader, but he's seeing all these horrible illusions and images, and he gets to like a hunting lodge with trophies on the wall, and he imagines the trophies come to life, and he can't figure out what's real and what's a hallucination, and he can't just dismiss everything as a hallucination, because he's got one of the most dangerous people in the galaxy after him, and so he and he ends up setting off a couple thermal detonators, which are like super grenades, and fighting off the imaginary monsters, and finally Vader gets the information, and the guy's left a wreck over in the corner. Not one of the better of the series.
Yeah, the other one seems funnier, a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah. And what else did I read? That may be it. Oh, and the latest Outer Darkness.
What'd you think? I haven't read it yet.
It's kind of a filler issue. It's not one of their best.
Not starting.
It's not one of their best works. The ongoing threads are kind of put aside. They come across the spectral shell of a ghost house from France in the 1600s. That I
love that.
They said it was like it was exorcised by the Vatican, and the house itself was burnt down, but the essence of the house is out floating in space. So they come across that, and they show a little backstory of the captain, and the girl he's trying to save, the girl he's in love with, and she was in love with him and another person. The God engine, the God that powers their ship, is trying to tempt him with getting this girl back, and the captain's like, how stupid do you think I am? So they run into this house, and they give the house's backstory, and that during there's a bunch of Nazi hunters in 1942 that went in with a priest and a nun to exorcise the house, and in the middle of it, the nun gets eaten by the house, and so then the ship is gonna take care of the house once and for all, and they go in and get rid of the demon, and the nun is still inside, and they rescue her. So they she's gonna be a new character in the book. So it was kind of a filler issue.
I'm excited. I love it. It's so hokey and cheesy. Or not even, it's not even cheesy. It's just like such a strange premise that it's just like I'm so gravitated to it. I'm like,
they just run with it.
They do. They're just like, we're gonna do it, and I'm like, I'm in. I love it. I just love that they try something different and original, and it's just but it's like they took something that and they just kind of turned it a little bit, and you're like, ooh, that's interesting. I really love that. So I read a couple. I got Hellchild, number 3, Blood Money. Again, I've said this 1,000 times about Zenoscope. I still stick to it. They're just fun reads, good characters, nothing great. And this one, she's trying to find her friend who is being sold at like a human auction, and she goes in and helps them, and hilarity ensues, and she ends up getting trapped. So I again, 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Zenoscope does not reinvent the wheel. They're just like, look, here's some good stories, here's some good characters, here's some good art, go. And that's what I love that. And I think that's why I read a lot of their stuff now. Let's see, I did the Leviathan, number 1, the Event Leviathan from DC. It's supposed to be
the big Superman crossover for the summer. Wah, wah.
I mean, like, I don't know.
Please stop.
No, this issue's just like, it's gritty and the art's weird and the story's kind of just like, man, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's not my cup of tea. Like, I'm sure people are going to be into this because it's kind of like a dark crime story, and like, Leviathan's supposed to be taking over all the other things, but I just don't care. And I think another thing is, like, I don't care, like, I don't know why DC is going more towards, I feel like they're going a lot more towards the Batman-esque characters. Like the Outsiders. The Outsiders is literally 5 Batmans on one team. And it's just like, it's not what I want. I don't need Batman, I don't need Batgirl or the former Batgirl, I don't need a Batman knockoff, I don't need Black Lightning, which I like Black Lightning actually, I really like him as a character. I don't need Katana. It's just like literally 5 Batman-esque characters. One has lightning, and that's it. And then we're making Supergroup. I'm like, if I wanted all that, I just read Batman, because that's what Batman has. Batman already has his established character. He doesn't need like 4 books. Now he's got 2 books with spin-off characters. It's just like it just same. I feel like this one's like him and Lois Lane bantering back and forth, and they're setting up this premise. They find Steve Trevor. It was okay. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. I'm sure people will be into it. Not my thing. Orphanage. So I've been really raving about this book the past 2. This is number 3.
That's one where the adults all died.
Mm-hmm. So this one I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I was not a huge fan of this issue. Again, I still really love the art. I like the characters. I think the premise is kind of interesting. It's very much a Walking Dead kind of premise. But this one, it almost feels like they already did this last issue. Like they're kind of doing the same thing again. It's just kind of like them moping and all this stuff. And I'm ready. They find this like kind of subhuman, and they kind of bring in. It's almost like they're trying to do these life lessons of this new world, and I was okay. It was okay. But the first 2, I was really excited about. I was like, I really liked the dynamic. I really liked the story. But this one was just kind of like, it was just kind of and I'm ready for them to get on with the story. Like, they're supposed to be trying to get to New Albany, and I think that's why, like, for Walking Dead, after a while, I got really bored, because it was like half of it was walking. Like, they're all walking. I get it. It's part of your title, Walking Dead. But, like, I don't need to see you walking. Like, cut that stuff out. Same with this. Like, it's them traveling and kind of along their travels, and I'm ready for them to be somewhere and actually do something. I'm ready for there to move the main storyline along and not these little subsets. Because now it's been like one issue. The first issue set it up. Second issue they kind of did the traveling and like did a little subplot. Now this third issue is doing another little subplot, and so now I'm ready. I'm just like, okay, you're getting ready to be in issue 4. Let's move along. But still a good book. I still really enjoyed it. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. It just wasn't my favorite out of all the other ones. Incredibles number 2, The Secret Identities. It was issue number 3. So Violet has a friend that has powers, and her dad's a villain, and she kind of turned evil to help her dad, and so this is kind of the resolution. Everybody ends up with kumbayas, trying, everything ends up good. It's a cute little Disney book. Kids, I would say probably like younger kids would be really enjoying it. I liked it. It's kind of fun. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Let's see, Major X. I don't know why I'm still reading this book. It is like I am reading this book just to see
see if he gets promoted to colonel.
Yeah, I'm just like I don't know. I keep reading it and I'm just like, how does somebody keep letting him do this? Like the story is stupid. The characters are lame. Like the art is okay. The art's good. I mean, because they changed artists. They actually brought in an artist that can do art. But still, it's just like I don't understand it. It's like it's literally a vehicle to say extensional and extreme and X this and X. And I'm just. But yet I keep reading it because I'm just watching this train wreck crash and burn. Like I'm a sadistic apparently. Ironheart was really cute. It was like it brought in the Wasp and they're fighting zombies. So I like Ironheart. Again, I think this would be more of a younger reader book. I don't think this is gonna be like really. I don't think this is gonna capture the middle-aged man. This is definitely like a younger book or a book driven more towards the females. Persuasion. I like it though, but I just don't think it's like they're not making it big enough. I feel like I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I love the art in this. The art is so good, and her costuming is so detailed, and I like the characters. I like her. I mean, I just really like this book, but I definitely can see where it's not going to be everybody's bag, and I can see. When you read a book, you feel like there's definitely an audience they were trying to talk to, and I feel like there's definitely an audience they were trying to talk to in this one. But I really liked it, so apparently I'm part of their audience. But and Invaders number 6. I don't know why I like this book, but I do. It's still like it's. Namor's invading the world, sort of somewhat. He's turned the city into... He releases chemical weapon, return the city into Atlanteans. And so now they have to breathe underwater, so he submerges the city underwater. And so now he's got all these like people kind of held hostage because they have to breathe underwater, and now they're just kind of subjects, sort of somewhat. And of course, everybody's trying to stop him. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why. It just is. Giant Man... That was the end of the War of the Realms. Giant Man. It was the final book. They get to the Frost Giant they're supposed to kill, and they ended up letting him go because he's not, he's been captured and he's being used anyways. And Ant-Man finds his daughter Cassie, and hilarity ensues. It's okay. I didn't like this one that much.
We couldn't figure out who the person on the cover is.
Moonstone.
Okay.
She was in Thunderbolts. Moonstone? Yeah. I don't know where she came from. Like, she hasn't been in any issue, and then all of a sudden she's at the end. She's there. I haven't seen her in any of the tie-ins or anything. I don't know. It was random. Glow number 2 from IDW. Really cute book. Really cute art. Like, the art is very cartoony and fun. And if you like the show, it's very much along the premise of the show. Like they're gonna fight. They're actually gonna have to wrestle these actual women wrestlers that are wanting to be women wrestlers and not just like some, cheesecake wrestling. And so, but the glow girls are trying to, hey, we're still, we're working, we're trying to do stuff, we're trying, and this, it's just, this is what works for us. And, it's just, I liked it. But I like the show too. So if you like the show, you'll like this. I think you'll like the book. Robin Hood Outlaw. Again. Good book, good art, good characters. just a fun book. I really enjoyed it. Glow, I'd probably give a 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Robin Hood, I'd probably give a 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. Again, in scope, it's just, I don't know, whatever they figured out, they've figured it out, and so I hope they just keep doing it because it's working for them. And then, so that was all my books for the week, but I did want to give an update that I did catch up on Beasts of Burden. I have officially now read all of them that they have. I went back and read them all this past weekend, and so good. If you have not read Beasts of Burden, if you are into like horror or thriller, I'd say horror, magic, supernatural, paranormal stuff. It's a really good book. I was really surprised at just how much, like, they're dogs and cats, and I was like, meh. But I really think they do really great with characterizing them, and the pug is kind of a jerk, and like he's always a jerk, and the husky has his place, and he's like a werewolf, and I just, man, it's so good. I just really like this book. So like the creators of Beasts of Burden.
So Jill Thompson and
Jill Thompson's done most of them, but there's a new one the newer one is done by somebody else, and I can't remember what his name was. But the new books are a different artist, and they talk about that because I've downloaded some of the trade paperbacks, and they talk about how like he was with Jill, and then he found this other character, kind of this other guy to fill in, and kind of now he's doing this other book with them. Which I think is the new book. I think it's him and not Jill, but I'd have to look it back again. But they just, they do really like the lore and the mythos in this. Like, so they have their main book, which was just a bunch of little tiny stories, but even like the little tiny stories, like they're just little standalone stories, which you can read the standalone story. But they have, if you read them all, you have little tips in there about how they got there, or they bring in stuff from the past, and like it's really well done. And then they did the what is it called? The Wise Dogs. The Wise Dogs are like this kind of like they're older, like they've been battling this stuff for a long time, and they're kind of like the epitome of like of what the best fighters or the best people to fight these things. And they did a spin-off of just them, and that was really good. Like I cannot say enough about this. I just love it. But even when they're talking about those, and they do that little mini series about the Wise Dogs, they're bringing in stuff from the other books, and I really love stuff like that. Like I just love when they kind of, it doesn't have to, they're not bringing in stuff that I have to read these other books. Like you can read one book and understand it. So I like that it was, not that matters, but. Good book, good chance. So that's it. All right. Crap. I still haven't read all my stuff from that I'm supposed to, like my normal books. I always read this stuff first so I can get it done. So until the next time, if you get a chance, like we said earlier, please like, share, subscribe. Please. We'd love to have more people conversation. If there's books that you think that we should be reading, or that you have a suggestion. We are also doing a book club, and we will have that in 2 weeks, I think. I think we'll be doing that show in 2 weeks. And so if you get a chance, please join that. We would love to have conversations about that stuff. But until then, I guess we hope your pull list is full. Bye!